few weeks ago, we had some presentations on the general plan from Landmark Design and a presentation on kind of where things are as far as potential revenue currently, and then some proposals with possible potential revenue that the city could maybe benefit from as we look at our general plan. I've provided you with copies of all of that information for your review, but tonight I would like to get some direction so that we can give Landmark Design and Tim with Township and Range some direction on how we envision our general plan looking. And the only things we'll be talking about tonight in the general plan are those things that we have in our packet. We aren't going to talk about anything other than that tonight. That doesn't mean that we can't put other things in our plan. It's just we aren't prepared for that. So let me just start off by just maybe sharing just a quick couple of things. I found a document and I provided you with a copy of it, and it's got some good information. I'm not saying that everything in there is correct, and this is how it needs to, our general plan needs to be, but there were some things in there that I really liked, because we always get asked, why is the city doing this? Or we get asked, especially when we start looking at land that hasn't been developed. But a comprehensive plan gives your city control over how it will progress and change over time. It enables cities to direct how change will occur, such as where new homes and parks will be constructed. Planning is not a cure-all, but it will help your city be prepared for the future and to positively react to changing needs. Planning also allows stakeholders to know what to expect of your city. The general plan outlines your city's vision for the future and describes how the vision will be achieved. Residents, developers, business, state government, and other interested parties should be able to see how your city will change by reviewing the general plan, and it will help them as they make their own decisions. So that's why we have a general plan, is to help outline what we envision the future to be like for Fruit Heights City. I think this is our last shot to make a change in our trajectory as to where we're going. We want to make sure that we make good decisions and that those decisions look at the interests of the city as a whole and not just, well, it doesn't make sense in my backyard. Maybe we could put it somewhere else, but to look at it holistically, citywide. So I think what I'd like to do is start off by having a discussion, maybe first of all, about this map right here. This is the land use concept map, and on this land use concept map, we show a commercial node at the north end of the city, and we show a open space. I believe that's what it is. Oh no, a recreation focus center near the Rock Loft area, and we have a recreation focus center at the Nichols Park area. We also have one down at Cherry Hill, and then we have a neighborhood center off of Main Street, what in the area that would be considered the golf course. That's the pink star. So let's take a minute and talk about these focus center areas and see if those are areas that make sense to consider focusing our attention on as far as development and future development of the general plan. And are there areas that we've missed that we should consider? Or should we look at, is there different thoughts there? So I'd like to get your thoughts. I'd like to get your ideas. I'd like to get your input on what you like.
Commercial Focus Center at the north. It's not on the original, but it should be on the original. It shouldn't, I mean, it's not different because it's already done commercial right there. So I think that's a point that got missed.
Maybe, but what does that, I think what we're asking is what does that commercial focus center look like? Because if it's only just the nursery, is that big enough for? Yeah, yeah. And if the Barkers are going to develop, should we consider something other than what we're showing there? I don't know right now. I don't know what the size of that is. And I don't know that we know what the size of that is. Only we're just showing that would be an area to do that. Yeah. Okay.
I think we need to consider this land here
This land here for a what?
as a focus.
For
If this plan goes as planned, then the city center, the primary center would be down off of Main Street. So I think we put into the plan, this land right here.
So do you see, Mayor, do you see that neighborhood center maybe relocating the city offices to that?
What?
No, I don't know, I'm just throwing things out. If we're going to think of potentially having a city center down there, then we relocate the city building down there too.
Yeah, it's not, but with the amount of ground that's left to develop, it would be central to,
Where we are isn't central either.
yeah, it's not.
I think if we're starting from ground zero, and we're listening to suggestions, I think that's the suggestion we should consider. 4 or 5 years ago here.
Okay.
City center being close to commercial parts rather than residential concepts, because there's the residential is who's gonna want either the city office, maybe if that's the central core, and then throws the commercial side. What's that gonna do to the residents that are right next to that? Because this general plan has to have some real continuity with it. And I just saying this out loud, know where Pleasant View City is out in North Ogden.
Yeah.
They're not too far off of our scenarios. I looked at it. They're up on the bench. Their commercials way out. You want to call that south on 2700. And their little general plan, we want it to stay out there. We don't want commercial up on our benches and migrated into our residential, our homes and things like that. So I think the commercial side of this, when you say out here where the nursery was, that's kind of that's like the backyard of someone's home, for example. So I don't know that that's a really great spot for commercial if you want to promote.
The only commercial I think you're gonna get there is what's already zoned commercial, which is a small.
And then that might be rezoned because of the size and quality and what you can develop. I mean, that's historically been a nursery. I'm just throwing it out. So when you look at this general plan, when we talk about everything open to conversation, this is kind of a residential spot. Mountain Road is kind of a, Main Street. Just thoughts.
But would you support a commercial area up there? And then if for some reason up at the north end of the city?
Not as much as what we're at.
Okay.
Where it's more community area and they can go and spend time with kids and, but it's on the other side of Cape Cod.
I would consider a gas station there on the Barker property right at the top of Fort North.
As far as transportation goes, it's a good note for that thing. You're right at the end of the bridge, you're right at an 89 intersection.
And they just took 2 gas stations off of 89.
The one problem you have there is what UDOT considers high traffic and the way that interchange is designed. and how many curb cuts can be made there with the way it's designed.
Yeah.
I think that's a
This is just-
spanner.
This is just, we're throwing out ideas.
So, where we're showing this neighborhood centers.
The neighborhood centers.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's like city hall type thing.
Neighborhood center could be a number of things. It could be some small, and maybe I ought to let Sam Taylor with Landmark Design is here, and Tim Sullivan with Township and Range is here. But Sam, could you just briefly explain what a neighborhood center might have in it? No, you're good.
So, I mean, when we talk about centers, it's pretty much nodes of activity. So it can be commercial or civic uses. But, you know, when we talk about neighborhood centers, we're usually talking about a very small scale. So a number of folks in the community mentioned that they desire places to go and dine, for instance. Small scale places, neighborhood centers would have, you know, that corner cafe, bike shop, you know, things of that nature. We're talking very small.
I guess that's kind of where I was going with it, is why not focus a little bit on the commercial? And it's right there, Main Street has got a lot of traffic. It's like, I think a big part of the reason that the Rock Loft is not really more successful is the amount of traffic that it gets on Mountain Road. I don't.
Well, that's probably the case. But I think if you provide more than just a place to go sit down and eat, but you add some things into that, then I think it invites people to there. But you go there to have a cup of soup and then that's all you do, right?
Right, so I guess you're saying a neighborhood center is more of like there's something to do other than just eat a cup of soup.
There's either something to do, or it also would benefit from proximity to other amenities with traffic. You know, so in the case of the Rock Loft, it has proximity to the canyon. So if, and that's why we kind of call it a recreation focused center, that if uses within that center were aimed at recreation within the canyon, it would probably be a stronger, more successful center than one just as a
So for example, maybe you have a bike shop there. Maybe you have a small shop there that has running and biking or something that caters to that. And then off to the side of that, maybe there is a small little convenience store type thing where you can go get your energy bars and your Powerades and your, I don't know, but
Sure, okay, that makes more sense to me. I was just thinking.
So a neighborhood center would be more a strip mall,
And what a neighborhood center,
would be more of a strip mall where you have kind of by Smith's here. And
I would hate to call it a strip mall because we don't want it to be auto focused as much as we want it to be walk focused, right? It's really there to support neighborhoods more than it is like people driving from other cities. That makes sense. You do want to provide some parking, obviously, but I think the intent is for it to be walkable. And that's part of why Tim is, or at least Michael, right? That's part of why Tim is talking a lot about Mountain Road as an active transportation corridor, giving people opportunity to use it to get to the canyons, on either.
so we're going to change that from a neighborhood center to more of a commercial center.
down on Main Street at the golf course.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was kind of originally thinking.
So maybe a small,
Yeah, well, help us understand why not a commercial center?
Which neighborhood center are we talking about now?
Main Street.
Okay,
Why not make that a commercial center?
well, that I think we did intend to be more, I'm sorry, I thought we were still talking about rock. So it should be good. When we talk about the golf course development, yes, we do talk about more of a commercial center that has a more diverse mix of commercial uses than just the recreation center.
I mean, the traffic, the amount of traffic on Main Street
Oh, yeah.
is huge
It's
compared
it's big, yeah.
to over by the rock lot. And it's even more probably and more accessible than even 200 North, which is quite a bit.
If you look in this, it shows some ideas of what those centers may be or could look like, just to give you an idea.
Sam or Curtis, any concern about shifting that more to a commercial focus than a neighborhood?
I think when you say neighborhood center, it could be commercial.
Yeah.
I don't see it being not. I mean, that needs to be commercial, and if it is commercial, it's still become a neighborhood center. And I think your idea of incorporating civic in that as well is a good idea, and that, redefine what may happen with this.
Right. Yeah, but this as a public works ground would be a waste of.
I think one thing to think about that particular location is that if that golf course doesn't redevelop, you have the ability to really view that area as kind of all together. So that you don't run into the issue of you have in a lot of places where you have kind of strict commercial on a major road that's disconnected from the neighborhoods behind it. You really integrated a transition from a single family neighborhood to commercial uses in a nice way. You can weave in open space, and you can weave in civic uses. So a lot of what we want with activity centers is mixed in uses that allow you to do things at one time, you can park once and walk. And it's woven in with the neighborhood really well, so it's not just a disconnect. So I think, and this is one of the few places in Free Heights where, if that golf course was transition out to a golf course, you have the opportunity to think that way.
So another question that I would have is, what if Davis County comes in and decides that they want to keep a 9-hole golf course and they would like to allow some of it to be sold as, a way of, what does that do to us?
I think just put it on the ring.
I think they keep what they want to keep if they do that, don't they?
Right, yeah, I mean, obviously, where you're not the landowner, you don't necessarily call shots, right?
Right.
But, but I think that's where it becomes a talking point with Davis County when it comes, right? By having a concept in the plan to say, this is where we're coming from, you can then negotiate and come to an agreement on how it should transform. Where does that 9-hole golf course live? Is it on the front half, the back half?
I think the perimeter would be a great idea.
Yeah,
Right?
as long as they can provide it in, ties.
Well, just make it more like a links type 9 holes that would go around the perimeter.
And if that's the county's interest, there's nothing wrong with that.
What's this?
So we're getting started. The idea is to be flexible.
Yeah, yeah.
What does the county say? Who should have seen it?
The county's seen it.
What do they say?
They don't say yes or no. They have received several calls. And those calls have all been forwarded on to myself or Mayor Pullman, I think. But the county is in the process of trying to decide what kind of a county they want to be. They're in the process of doing a master plan and saying, what does Davis County look like? We are the most dense county in northern Utah, and we offer the fewest amenities in northern Utah. So everybody goes elsewhere to do their things. And why can't you stay in Davis County and go biking and boating and fishing and go out to nice restaurants other than your standard run of the mill hamburger joint,
That's the land, the type of property isn't found there.
No,
That's
no.
part of it, is you don't have people rushing out to, let's be careful, but the west side of the Wasatch Front to go live. Somebody's going to be kind of migrating out there. But if you really want, Did everybody come up here in the dark and say, oh, I think I'll just pick this lot? I think it's been a real choice to be up here in.
It has.
For certain reasons.
And I,
You have to say, we didn't come here to be close. I'm close enough to Station Park, just throwing this out here, which is probably one of the most, I think it's one of the best developments we have in Utah for what they're trying to do. And it's 5 minutes from my house.
and this wouldn't be, and I don't want you to feel like this would become a Station Park. We don't want to compete with that, right? We don't want to be another mall that has stores, but we want to be unique. We have, I guess the best way to put it is, this is our last chance to try and get something in the city that will help our residents and the tax base. But we still need to keep in mind that people moved here for a reason, and that reason is exactly what we have. But as we look into the future and we see what may be coming, you know, one of those possibilities, and I don't want to be a doomsdayer, but if the city can't continue to be a city, it's going to have to be engulfed by some other city. And I would hate to see that. You know, I want to see Fruit Heights City continue to be a city that we all really love and enjoy. So it's not about money.
Because it seems like
It's not about money. It's about planning for the future and how the future may look. Because with more homes and more density is more responsibility for the city to have to maintain more infrastructure.
So, just thoughts, I don't want to get too much on Pleasantview, but they are very much a lot like they have more out in the valley than they have 2700. Everybody most people want everything commercial to stay out there. Leave my Pleasantview bench alone. in that regard.
Well,
For
and
a reason.
yeah.
So I'm only bringing this up to the fact that their comment was, raise my taxes, but don't put a Maverick next door to me. Just to get revenues to take care of budgets and things like that. They have the same problems we do. They have roads that are difficult, you know, sometimes. Now, roads got a lot of attention to it over the years, but we do have situations where we have, you know, more than anybody, Brandon, about the cost to take care of the city improvements and, you know, how it goes. It's a landowner or a building owner. When something goes wrong, you gotta fix it. You have to find-
Well, and that price is placed on the burden of the property owners, right? And yeah, I hear that all the time. I'm very aware, but there's going to be a time where this city, those elected officials and those that are in the planning are going to have to make a decision on what happens with, you know, what if Davis County came to us tomorrow and said, we're selling? And what if a developer came in and said, great, I want to buy it and I want to put in some high density? And what if, you know, the what ifs just go on and on, but it would be nice to have at least a plan. And again, it's a general plan. It's not, this is exactly how it's going to go, but we say in our general plan, for the property that's remaining to be developed, we as a city support the concept of smart development and making it beneficial to the city as a whole.
So I would say this, what percentage of our city would be this, and this? I think we could break that out. We want 80% residential, 5% recreational, 15% commercial. Do we have some values? And then you see what land you have to be able to do. I think that would be worthwhile to look at the opportunities. They're all listed here and see what percentages and what land is available to accomplish them. Because we know the map and we live here. We should be able to say, there's a certain portion of this property, there's this golf course that may or may not ever come online, but if it does, that's probably gonna be more than we'll want in all commercial. We want more residential.
So I think in the other map that you have in front of you, if you look at that, I think they've done a pretty good job of breaking that out. Mixed use center, 14 acres. Mixed residential, 40 acres. Transitional residential, 30 acres. Open space, 72 acres, for a total of 156 acres. I mean, I don't know. That's just for that parcel of ground.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
On the zoomed out map, it's all yellowed to the south of Nichols Road. On the zoomed in map, we've got a space of not drawn in. Was that?
Sorry, on
There's
this.
a transitional residential on the zoomed out map, but on the zoomed in, there's not a transitional development next to Nichols Road, south of it.
Well, that, are you talking about this?
This piece right here.
Nope. Up against Nichols, where Nichols runs into 89.
That's city-owned property. That's Nichols Park right now.
Nope, on the other side of Nichols Road, south side Nichols Road.
Single family homes that exist now.
Yep. And so they're on the zoomed in, it's not flagged as transitional or buffer residential.
Oh,
Yeah, we, on the zoomed in map, we only worry about the golf course parcel.
Okay.
But what I did is you'll see with all the existing uses around this parcel, we created an open space buffer.
On the zoomed in.
Trying to create as little impact on the neighborhood as possible is a key focus of this concept, right?
because we
Well, I was
heard a lot
noticing-
from them.
Well,
Honestly, I think.
the youngest house there is 1986. So if this is a 30-year plan, those homes are going to be 60 years old, 70 years old by the time that plan comes in. I don't know why we wouldn't, as a city, want to.
In 72
make
acres,
those.
kind of a lot of green space when we're talking about, hopefully not turf, right? With our water restrictions, we're talking about open space that's not turf.
Unless the county wants the land.
So what were you saying?
That would we, in that long-term plan, would we want to make sure these are actual transitional zones, buffer zones?
Some redevelopment, some of these side areas, potentially.
I think that should be a goal.
Proposed, and that could sort of definitely be part of it.
And then,
I think that belt around that, around the area we're looking at is tremendous. I don't know what the distance is, say, from the backyard of one of the existing homes to, say, the transition buffer residential. But you can see all kinds of uses for it, and especially with the proximity of Nichols Road, and put in a nice crossing. Wonderful place to spend all of your time, running, hiking, or walking, or jogging, or cross country, whatever, from one group to, from one area to the other.
We also have some pasture
Too much
land.
open space, when you get filled with homes and there's, I mean, yeah, we have the mountains, but to have something like this right at the back door, or so to speak, huge asset.
So would you be suggesting in that open space that there be trails and active transportation type?
Yeah, that was definitely along the lines of what we were thinking, was that one of the assets you guys have is great, trail or street corridor, Bear Creek, and connected to the bottom of Shoreline Trail. It's sort of like this overall framework of the city, so that if you kind of expand on that, going from Nichols Park into this new, what would be this new area, and having a trail kind of come all the way down to Main Street, where this commercial would be, it would all be really connected to the.
Talk about bikeable communities, from Mountain Road, you get on Bear Creek, run down, you get to see how you ride your bike down to lunch or whatever, or, a group of people in the evenings after work, so I think that'd be tremendous.
Yeah.
I think if our city center was located in that Nichols 89 intersection, moving from here down there in the long term, I think that would be a great place to have that center of the city as well.
But the access isn't good.
You've got
Yeah.
the overpass and then Main Street up. So the access from this side over the Nichols overpass will be there. And then there's the Front
You've
Ridge
got
Road,
community access,
right?
but not an external community access.
But if we're making the commercial, the Main Street side, that's where the external access would come, is right to that commercial.
What about there on Nichols Road where you've basically done nothing with the general plan as far as, we've got pasture land there, do we just anticipate that's gonna stay that way forever? Or are we going to address that, there may be changes in that area as well?
Where's that?
That's what,
That's what George is
That's
talking about?
exactly what
Okay.
I mean, we presented several concepts that Public Open House, and one of them actually did propose putting the city center at Nichols and Wood. And
That's the one that got the phones ringing.
The city was exercising eminent domain. So.
Yeah.
They were very, very upset about it, so.
let's do it.
We kind of backed off, and that's kind of where we ended up now. But I think from a transportation system standpoint, we did like that location for some sort of activity center, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool about putting the civic uses by the park, having that all together. As a kind of city center, even if it's the focus is commercial, there's some complementary commercial, but having use like the city center, maybe some other recreation uses by the park, and that's nice. That's good.
I have a question. Now, George, you like those trails and have had a lot of thought. And this Sam's idea of, do we want to tout it so much that it gets a lot of more traffic up there?
I would think so. I'm not sure what that does for bringing revenue to the city. Like when I go use trails elsewhere, I'm not bringing revenue to those places. But I think that that's something that would be beneficial to the residents. I mean, that's a huge deal to me to have that trail Curtis is talking about that goes from the Kaysville, the Farmington, the Kaysville ponds, clear up through, because it breaks. Right now, currently, you can go to the Kaysville pond, but then it breaks through the Burton Road up to Gailey Trail. And I can't wait, till it goes all the way through there, as well as up through our part on this side of the city as well. So I think that trail is huge for a citizen. And I wouldn't think of it as a revenue generator, but I think that'd be huge for the citizens to have that, to tie it together really well, like he was saying, right through Gailey, right to Main Street, right to the Farmington ponds or Kaysville Pond.
And the reason why the Gailey Trail exists is because of master plans from 20 years ago. That would not be a Gailey Trail if it wasn't for people who thought that through well in advance. We only owned a third of that land, and that's what's turned it into. So I like the idea. I love the concept, but I don't think we should stop. I think we should focus on, while we can, throw out some more ideas of commercial zones and commercial areas. I like right at the top of 400 North is the only real commercial center. I actually like that. I'm not against a Maverick gasoline or something going in there someday in the future.
A charging station.
There's some potential for maybe a small piece north of that to be rezoned. I don't know, that's not currently showed on there, and I don't know if that makes sense, but that could maybe expand a little bit. I think that would probably upset some people, but the whole concept of master planning upsets a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then you run into the Ward property, which is what is it, F6, and we can't do a thing with it.
Well, a temple?
Yeah.
No.
What did you say? Oh,
That's sure I was gonna help.
But that's true. But the property can always be, we have to go through a process, but it can be traded for F6 property elsewhere. So we'd have to go through the same process that UDOT went through to make that F6 property.
But the reason UDOT did that was because the options for the F6 property in the city are pretty limited.
Well, with ground that was available, yes.
You have to trade it within the city?
It has to be within the corporate boundaries of Fruit Heights City. Now that doesn't mean that the boundary may expand to the east a little bit.
What you're
That's
saying
possible.
Is potentially trade that F6 for something farther up the bench.
Potentially,
How
yeah.
big is the F6 right there?
Well, it's not based on acreage, it's based on dollar equivalency. So it would have to be appraised a dollar for dollar trade.
6F property is federally designated land. It can only be, it has to be maintained for open and public use.
And it can't currently be zoned open and public space. It has to be new ground rezoned.
So we can't take part of a park and say, this is our new F6.
Yeah,
It
yep.
has to be something. else.
Has to be new ground. So
However, let's look at this. Because you've got all this open space buffer as part of this golf course development. So if the golf course ever really does go, then it would seem like you could take and trade some of the golf course with it is not.
if it wasn't already public open space,
Okay.
you could, but where it is already deemed public open space,
So we need someone to come in here with a big plan to develop it and get it all rezoned and then back off.
So I would throw out from this plan, I think the only area that we missed was this land right here.
so you would see the city potentially being an activity center or a recreation center. What would you see that being? A commercial focus center?
A fire station?
That's what I see it.
High density housing.
A fire station?
I don't know. It could be. I mean, if the city hall decides to relocate down into that city center or that neighborhood center, this could potentially become something more than what it is. This one? It's been great. Other than their dogs.
Sorry, to bring that up, but did you have any issues with that?
No.
Because remember they had that was the one negative about that is the elevations of
No, it hasn't been a problem. So
this is prime residential area.
High density housing.
Can we keep the park, the playground? I've heard from one resident that they think we should have more parks to take the kids to and playgrounds and stuff.
Well, and
Your lawn.
you know, back to the point of, yeah, the city we can put a playground in every park if that's what the city wants to do, but we've got to figure out how we fund that. Is that, you know, if you as a council go to the residents and say, we're going to raise your property taxes so we can put a park in, that doesn't go over very well. But if we can help subsidize that park installation with some other revenue sources, then that's a lot easier for people to swallow and accept. But
And do we still have to have a well here?
that's a conversation for another time. But we do have a well approval to drill here. But I don't want to, it's expensive. Let me just say
I
that.
have another high level question. Does
Yeah.
anybody else contemplate population growth in the next 50 years? I know it's meteoric right now, but everybody's forecasts are saying we're plateauing on people wise, and then in the next 50 dropping off. Is that even a concern in the planning when you guys plan
Population.
cities? Yeah, population plateauing and actually declining. Is that even a concern in people's radars?
As far as
Is that just mine?
region's forecast for the next 20 years is expected to double
For you, Tom?
for Utah. I'm not sure where it goes beyond that. Now, obviously, you look at a smaller scale beyond the region. Some pockets of Wasatch primarily but I think as a general trend over the next 20 years, the whole metro area does see some growth to some level.
So is there anybody, and this is a really far off thought, and you'll have to humor me for asking it. Is anybody even thinking past that? So we're having this boom for the next 20, 30 years, but we all know that that's ending and stopping. Whereas we look at world populations, it's, and so do we build things to start to
10 to
convert
20.
that back to something that's a little more manageable for those
You know,
smaller
I've
families?
I've been involved
aging
with
populations.
Wasatch Front Regional Council, and they are very good at holding planning meetings. You know, I think they're right now planning for 2040 and 2060. I can't remember what all the plans are, but they're looking out into the future, not only, you know, population growth, but transportation and you know, the UTA systems and all of that. So there is a lot of thought that's going into the planning. Fruit Heights City is going to be one of those cities in Davis County that in the next, well, after the bench develops, we're going to plateau because we don't
High-density.
really have much more to develop.
Unless we go high density.
Yes.
And then it'd be, you know, the amenities to support that population.
Yes.
So there's essentially two avenues we see population growing in. One is through future development, the other is through ADUs, which is a very real thing.
Extremely real.
So, and I don't know how popular that's going to get, but I could reasonably see a lot of people doing it. And then when everyone starts dying,
And we'll worry about the
So how,
space we have.
I have a question.
Capacity.
Why isn't ADUs part of the conversation now?
Because we're in the process right now of adopting an ADU ordinance that's mandated by the state. It will become a part of our general plan. It's just not part of this.
See,
It's not
'cause
part
that-
of this
it
part of the
sh-
plan.
Shouldn't it be? I think,
It will be part of the plan. It's just not part of this plan, this first phase.
Because it's a hand in hand. So by the time we pass this, we'll have an ADU ordinance to put with it.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
Sam, you were going to say something.
I was just gonna say, just looking back and just, you know, how the 1996, the population in Utah reached a lot from 1 million. That was 30 years ago. And, sorry, let's see. Yeah, sorry, the state population reached 1 million in 1966. Now we're around 3 million plus. And they say in 40 years we'll be 5.5, so it doubled in 40 years. So look what, you know, you're talking about, it went up 3 times in, what,
50 years, right?
Go up, you know. So it's, you know, I'm just trying to get some semblance of statistics there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna, I think Utah's gonna be another key growth.
I think the proximity where I sit with the major areas is fine. It's not out west where the roads are, in my opinion. It's, you know, close access to the mountains. It's got east-west access for trails. Lebanon not that far away, that trail. And I think, you know, as we all know, it's a desirable place to live.
For sure.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
I don't see it dying back.
I
Yeah.
think it'll come fast. And I'm probably doomsdayer, but I'm okay with it. That's not a part two. We don't need to worry too much about that at the
The
moment.
other thing that.
Growth is what's more important.
I think, in my opinion, is people have been, I mean, what was our in-migration in the last few years has been like, I think I read 59% or something crazy like that. And I think as our costs equalize with the rest of the country, you start to lose some of that. Because
True.
it's kind of like, hey, I want to live where it's somewhere not quite so expensive. And so I think you lose some of that in migration. And costs have certainly increased here an awful lot in the last year.
so just
I
to
agree.
keep the moving rolling, I think if we can incorporate this land, I think what George talked about, the land on Nichols, incorporate that into it, I think that would be good. I think let's continue on with one of the other maps. Keep the meeting rolling, is that right?
Yeah, that's fine. So I'll work with Sam on on those recommendations of incorporating, just so I make sure that I get this right, the city building for what that could potentially become. And what was the other area, Mayor?
It would be Nichols Road south, north of the driving range.
Oh, okay. So west side of 89. Okay. Looking at something there, but keeping the neighborhood center at the bottom of the golf course property along Main Street. Okay. Are you okay with where they have shown the recreation focus centers?
So I think those are misunderstood in the community.
Yes, I agree.
And people think that they're gonna be these massive, like trailheads and things like that, where all we as a city are saying is that a recreation supported business would go there. Like a bike shop, like a smoothie shop, like, it's
Cherry Hill's already in that zone.
exactly. So we would encourage businesses like that going in there, not taking those out and making those massive trailheads. I think that's a big misconception in the city.
But with that thought, trailhead connectivity would likely happen or occur in those areas.
They currently do.
Yes,
The concern with the trailhead is like a big parking area that would attract people from all over.
yes.
So it's more of like a locally focused trailhead.
Yes. I think if we keep the trailhead up north, up by the gun range, I think that'd be the best situation for all parties. But by making that recreational focus, we're saying, hey,
So,
if Cherry Hill or if the Rock Off goes under and we actually have the ability to decide what's going in there, like a bike shop would be perfect. Something that would be a recreational focused business would utilize that land.
where you see people riding their bike and stopping to get a part or something, I don't know, just knowing, or walking or whatever, but yeah. And then continuing on the trail. Okay, all right. So let me just ask this question because I want to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. For the preferred alternative, are we comfortable with that? Can we proceed in that direction with that plan and start writing that into our general plan?
No, I think we need more centers. I'm serious. But we only have 14% or 14 acres.
Of mixed use?
No, yeah, mixed use centers. I think bumping that up to 20 or 25%, and let's put our commercial in that area. Like, I agree with what Sam's saying. If we're gonna designate an area for commercial, let's designate more of an area of that location to commercial. And I envision this as like being the key, having more of this area as commercial, and then going out from there as residential.
So less mixed residential and more,
Well, and you've got that, the middle of the key being the primary open space. I don't know that needs to be primary open space.
well, I think the reason behind it was to provide some separation and some open space between the uses so that it doesn't feel like it's building to building, wall to wall.
Right, we don't need it to be Station Park.
Yes,
We don't need it to be.
and it won't be.
Right, we don't need it to be Main Street, Kaysville. What we're looking for is something that's residentially accepted, that provides commercial, provides residential, and provides a buffer.
Okay.
So do you have an idea what that would look like? You gave some examples of what it's not going to look like, but do we have an example of what it would look like?
I think let's keep Main Street, but let's provide access to opportunity for commercial opportunities there.
So maybe what I'm hearing is maybe work on removing some of the mixed residential and increasing some of the commercial.
But I think you really need time on Main Street to have businesses succeed. You can't just put them up in the.
Right.
road.
Like-
If I had
Yeah.
businesses up there, if I had to sell balloons up there, that'd be a tough sell. You need them down where you have some traffic and some visibility and such. And I could have my office up there in Rocklaw, but I don't need
You don't need,
walking traffic as much or even, you know, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
I think the commercial area to get the eye of not only the buyer, but the guy that's gonna sell it, the company that's gonna sign a lease and build a product that's gonna last and follow revenue. And money can survive. You could have some really cool off Main Street connection into a little kind of almost village of shops and cool things that, you know, you get the traffic to be the favorite 20 or, you know, just a nice meandering way through and, you know, a small place to go shopping and yet it's on the edge of all of our homes, so we don't feel that impact of that. But I think that commercial needs to be near Main Street, the big part of it. I mean, gosh, if we have this nursery and somebody wants to put a Maverick or some gas station up there, that's great, if it'll fit and the zoning, you know, if they feel like they can make the deal work. But I think the commercial per se is already set up perfectly for us with Cherry Hill and just work your way down the road.
yeah,
Just thinking what the mayor's saying though is we need to expand that just a little
Yeah.
bit.
Right,
You
exactly.
need to bolt it into the product to get enough support. If you have one shop, then you need 4 shops because they've got to
Well,
work off each other.
Or if you have one restaurant, if you have 4, it's better
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people are like,
You're not-
well, you know, they
And-
draw each other.
and again, it supports Cherry Hill because people may walk from Cherry Hill up to the restaurant to grab something to eat, you know?
It's just a natural thing. It's working away and if they stop there until they go down to Orlando's, then you never know. I'm just saying.
I agree.
Even though we want to maximize the frontage on Main Street for commercial, still think it'd be important to have at least some kind of open space corridor and each off Main Street into that. So don't cut off all of it. The open space corridor from, you know, make sure. you
Oh,
take
yeah.
care of it.
That's the way you get there. right?
Yeah,
Because you're not gonna be able to have a cut every so often to pull off into some guys. You want to have almost a retail back door and come into a center and have centralized, you know. And I'm gonna say, you know, we've already talked about it, but a mini station park is the concept where you drive in and you can have shops. That concept is, well, take a look at it. We don't need them that big of a deal, but it would be a minimal of that because all of the station parks pretty much fits in a circle or a good size.
Mhm,
And you get to it from the edges of residential area.
But as you're driving by, it becomes apparent, oh, hey, there is kind of something that I need to come back to when I have a minute. Or where we want to go to dinner, or there's something, there's stuff in there that I can see that I want to spend some time.
Right.
And I think in the big picture, kind of just expands with Kaysville, the Main Street and commercial feel.
and it's well planned out. Sorry. Okay, so in concept, I would just ask, I think we support this with some modifications to it.
I think a few modifications. I would say just a couple. I would say a few.
A few.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Do we all agree that 72 acres are almost half of the property in open space is kind of like our weather guys saying, don't do that?
I feel like where we have Nichols Park right there, 72 acres is kind of a lot. Because Nichols Park is right there and available to be a park for some of that residential. And yet we've got open space right across the street from Nichols Park in this concept plan, so.
I think the elevation difference is.
That's true. That's right.
It is there, but it's down below, so it's not as,
Noticeable.
or as easy, you know, mentally, it's not as easy to get.
Yeah.
Like the 10th hole, or either the second or the 10th hole of Apple or Davis, you have to go down into a gully and tee off.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, maybe one example of what it could be or look like is a place that was kind of unusable and became more wide open like this was right across the street from Temple Square in Salt Lake City. You walk in that place now, it's a lot more open than
City Creek?
what it was. I mean, I don't know if that's.
That's huge.
Okay.
Kind of feels.
Okay, well, we'll take those recommendations and adapt them to the plan, but it sounds like in concept, we like where this is going with some modifications as suggested.
And maybe I'm the only one speaking out of turn, but I think 72 acres of open space is too high.
Okay,
And I back it, and I am on those buffers, and I've got neighbors that are screaming at me, but I still think half of the acreage being maintained as open space is too much.
okay. So maybe look at reducing some of that open space and increasing some of the commercial.
This area is called buffer open space, comes right up to your point, Curtis. This entry could be quite a jewel to come into Fruit Heights City.
Yeah.
Because, let's be candid, the 89 pretty well killed our normal accesses to our, you can't get to Naples Park unless you go up around or find it's kind of a map thing, So I think that area, to your point, Curtis, could be an amazing entry into all of Fruit Heights.
I wish that since we're Fruit Heights, we could have some more orchards or farms that actually would draw people to come and, oh, we can go pick apples or peaches, or we can go get our fresh vegetables at this spot. If there's anyone that would do it.
No, we should rename Fruit Heights to Amazon City.
I've already renamed it Frugal Heights.
Because, I mean, everybody has, I mean, we have shopping districts that are a lot the same everywhere, but some cool open space that it's actually useful for some organic farming.
Community gardens.
Right. It's work.
Well, community gardens, if you get a go-getter for volunteering, community gardens do some real good things. I think the orchard is a little bit difficult because if you're not careful, you introduce pests into the world that nobody wants.
Or pesticides into neighborhoods.
So you gotta be careful what you do there, but certainly the community gardens are.
Sam's on a roll, go for it.
Sorry,
This is
just
great.
saying, because I'm kind of back here in Salt Lake, and you gotta be careful with what we design and what we put together, because you're gonna have communities kind of within, and sometimes have tents, and sometimes have sleep bags, and they have places where if you have these cool spots, you could,
Introduce.
Or anything about that, but it's just, you're gonna bring into that element, we have to be cautious of how we do those things too, just to make sure. And that has nothing, what I'm saying, it's just reality of what we'll bring.
Yeah.
So it has.
I think a lot of what you're getting at though is that you could, a lot of this is, how do you create something that's unique, that's gonna attract people for that commercial to work, for it to, they're sort of doing a lot of things at once. It's making sure you have like some commercial that is successful there, but also the idea of the front door to your community, pulling people in and kind of telling everybody what Fruit Heights is all about. Something like an orchard would really complement that experience of the town center and commercial center really well. And also be kind of a unique experience for people.
Thanks.
Except for orchards aren't pretty. Orchards aren't pretty, I live here.
I can see, sure they are. I can see this area that's the first square as you're coming off of Main Street. I can see that at Bosco, a fruit tree, springtime, BC's got the cherry blossoms, whatever. And I could, it'd be huge maintenance and but it could be kind of a neat little draw.
We might be able to.
Have picnicking into the orchard, and then in the fall time, if you find it, green apple or whatever, enjoy it.
Well,
I mean, the idea is there, it's just,
Yeah.
of course, it's costly.
you could compete with Kaysville just a little bit and have a little area that. would
Farmer's
be set
market.
up As a farmer's market.
You could have USU extension.
That's what I was going to say. I think they've offered
already.
Yeah.
Really.
Absolutely.
That is part of your open space and your landscape and you can.
That could be fun, though.
Beaches and cherries or whatever.
USU would take a couple acres and do something like that with it.
They've already.
That'd be fun.
They would.
Blend that into the-
That'd be fun.
tremendous. That's a great idea.
So do our planners hear that?
Yeah.
They're just yapping back there.
They're talking about coming up and picking fruit is what they're talking about.
The idea of having USU manage a few acres of a fruit orchard in the open space.
That's totally, yeah. Open space can be anything, right? It can be a lot of different things. And it just comes down to having a manageable plan.
But
That's a detail that's, not part of this general plan, that's when you get down to the actual development software. But what we can put in this plan is that the open space should reflect these sort of values and interests, and should, as you guys are saying, be a gateway piece to the community. We could include in there these things.
Yeah.
So, these are really great thoughts, honestly. Just
Brady, you're on a roll, man. Keep going.
Elements for developers and owners of property and such, usually you have a plan. I mean, I'm not saying anything about the lots or the other areas, but we put real-time elements with roads and streets and see what that looks like. It's 150 acres.
I think you're going to have values established, what you're looking for. That's the target, what is, where do we want this piece of, commercial with some open space? Where do we see it? And then that gives, develop with guidelines, direction, and say, okay, that is a kind of neat deal. Whether they're, almost like it would be from outside the community, what we're looking for, and what we got, what is.
What we value. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Sugar House Park doesn't have sugar cane anymore, or sugar refinery.
No,
We all know
but it's a nice park.
It is a very nice park.
People go there.
So detail on the drawing, are the circles roundabouts? Is that what that's supposed to signify? I fully support them. So good job on whoever put them there.
I don't know, they're roundabouts, they're just nodes, right?
Perfect.
Okay, let's move on and talk a little bit about, I think we've got some good direction on the preferred alternative and what we need to do there. I feel like we've got some good direction on the concept plan of the land use map and some direction there. Now let's talk a little bit about the transportation aspect of this plan. Tim provided us with some concepts or some ideas of maybe what some of our roads could look like. And I believe those are in at least I thought they were.
3/4 of the way back.
What are the bulb outs for? Just beautification, slow down traffic?
The bulb outs?
The ones that are like in the one with both sidewalks on both sides. So a lot, it does, well, that's the number of things, they shorten the pedestrian crossing. They'll give pedestrian more space, and so the crossing is shortened when you actually cross the streets. You also slow down traffic by narrowing the roadway.
Yeah. So we looked at, Tim kind of focused on Mountain Road, if I'm not mistaken. That was kind of the focus of, and Nichols Road.
You sort of kept it generic and allow people to think that it is sort of a major street.
Yeah.
Where is the road?
So it's just kind of, it's just one sheet is all it is.
All right.
But what Tim was showing on that, and if you think about this being maybe Mountain Road, this cross section, and the bulb outs, I know Councilmember Moss has talked to me a couple of times about creating some safe crosswalks across Mountain Road. And in my mind, that works really well with some bulb outs and narrowing the road, providing a safe area for the pedestrians to be able to cross at certain locations. Not every street would have one because that becomes obnoxious, but thinking about active transportation and how people are going to be walking and connectivity and safety
Yeah, and
for those.
These ones that are in this picture elements that are gonna make it feel kind of more community oriented. This particular concept does not have well, that's the shortening of crossings. So I think one of our other concepts, put sidewalks on both sides of the street and then have more frequent pedestrian crossings on major roads like Mountain Road. So then you have the curb extension holdouts doing that job as well, shortening the crossing.
Yeah.
So, but these were a little different, and I can talk about the public, what we heard from the public too.
Yes. Would you?
This particular alternative, the response to the pathway, which essentially was be taking the existing sidewalk and widening it so that it could fit more people with bikes and pedestrians, just making it more of a mixed pathway. That got pretty good feedback. We had a short questionnaire that we could fill out. We didn't get too many of them, but the feedback was generally for this one that would like the pathway, but had concerns about those pulled out because of whether it was like snow removal or people getting out of their driveways. The way we were showing them, they're fairly frequent, so they wouldn't necessarily have to be that frequent. But that was generally the feedback we got. We got the other comments, people like the more inexpensive striping changes to we have bike lanes and buffer bike lanes and one alternative. People really like those. And generally thought that putting sidewalks on both sides of these major streets was overkill, too much change, but liked the idea of the wider pathway on one side. It's a little bit of that rural feel. You kind of that pathway along the street on one side, no sidewalks on the other side. More pedestrian crossings to get people over to that pathway. So that was just some of the feedback we got, overall.
And those, and to test that, we could stripe bulb outs in the road without pouring concrete, right? So,
Delineators around.
yeah. And then for wintertime snow removal, you just plow through the striped out section and yeah.
So, how much, I guess we're looking, if I can interrupt, down the road, but I don't know, how many crosswalks do you need on? What's the demand for crosswalks now? There's probably one at the top of each tree, Sunday. So, how many locations are there? I don't know.
We haven't identified where those are.
Yeah, but we're just talking about down the road, if we need some, this is what we need.
Yes.
Sorry, just to tie these plans together, we have Mountain Road as the main community trail network. So how do we make Mountain Road a main community trail network? I think that's the conversation. It's not necessarily about crosswalks. It's about if we do this, how are we going to do it? How are we going to get more people on Mountain Road and are safely on Mountain Road?
One of the things that we talked about is.
If you talk about Pleasant View, one more.
And you have the famous bicycles, and cars, and they all have to go that way. And if you put these bulb outs, you're going to interrupt something there like a bike. The bikes have no way to, typically we're not to have them on the sidewalks, I hope. Unless you're solid, I guess. And then I think the pathway between the sidewalk and the cars is your transportation for your bike. If you don't want to put a bulb out in that zone, you're interrupting that whether it's a speed bump, a hump, or a bulb out, you're gonna get in the way. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I was over here weeding a garden a few years ago, and 6 in the morning, someone's biking down Mountain Road going about 30 miles an hour. So if they hit into one of these, I've seen it in Salt Lake where they hit these abrupt elements without paying attention, and it can be pretty interesting. So I think I would try and keep that pathway, car, bike, people walking in a very fluid, safe zone without any interrupted elements at all.
I would second that, and I would also recommend we narrow the car, give more of an emphasis to bike.
Well, and I think I think a lot of that can be taken care of with some striping, and then you're not impeding anybody's ability, but you're narrowing the road, widening a bike path, and then providing a walking path. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what Tim has to say, but go. We should, we don't.
That would be a part of it, if you're gonna dedicate that bike space, like just to restrict parking there. So as long as people are okay with it.
I think it's a problem if you do it on both sides.
Well, if you do it on one side, it's going to be a problem for both sides because you wouldn't be able to park a car on the other side of the road if you shift traffic and create a.
Yeah, I think to take a bunch of people and tell them that they can no longer have company park on the road in front of their house, when that's,
Good thing I don't live there.
I don't,
I think that's just kind of work around it. That's what we do.
Well, so that was, I mean, that was part of the solution for the pathway. We have a pathway there. You know, there's just not enough like where pedestrian traffic, you say, well, it's gonna be just so many people that you're not gonna be able to have, you know, bikes and pedestrians like this. That I think it's a good solution for bikes. You can either just ride in the path if you're comfortable. There are a lot of recreational road cyclists just want to go fast. They can take the lane, the share and the share kind of simple bike symbol in the lane. And then for those that are slower with kids or families or whatever, you just bike on the pathway that will be 10 feet wide and share that with pedestrians. So that was kind of one proposed solution to that issue of where do the bikes go? Well, you know, the families have bicyclists, they can go the shared pathway that would be wide on one side.
can you maintain the bike lane as it is sort of, and put these features, if you would, just in occasionally so that it has enough rounding to it so that there is still keeps parking, but it goes in and out for just the parking area, but maintains the bike path.
I don't know that most of, I think some of the streets wide enough to have parking, bike, and traffic. Some of the streets narrow enough to kind of choose whether you have the parking or you have a bike lane. But there may be, I think there's some segments in that where you can have all that together. And so in those cases, that's the most kind of popular place to put like a hold out. It's just in that parking lane because then you still allow the bikes through, like you're saying. So, you know, there could be strategic places to put those.
What would be the purpose of the bulb out in a 25-mile-an-hour zone in this rural area?
To encourage people to go 25 miles an hour, not 45?
Pardon?
To encourage people to go 25, not 45?
Yeah.
Aggies?
Any Aggies?
Aggie Boulevard is like classic example of boulevards. You got the corridor of the campus. If those boulevards weren't there at every crossing, it would be a student's dream drag strip. But because those are there, it forces people psychologically to slow down and say, oh, this is student land, I better slow down.
Yeah.
And then it makes the pedestrian users crossing much shorter and much more comfortable. And it also kind of announces to the driver, well, there's someone trying to cross here. I mean, we've all been in a crosswalk, standard crosswalk, where the drivers just go by.
Yeah.
Right? So by putting, it gives you the chance for the pedestrian to put yourself out there and say, I'm about to cross, please stop.
Yeah.
I don't think you can underplay the bicycle usage
On Mountain Road. No, it's busy. It's very popular.
And a conversation just this morning, cycling, with in Salt Lake. And this is, I mean, he's not unique. Coming, 89 is not bike
Friendly.
can't access bike anymore, and so it is. And he said, I'm loving having a furniture. It is fantastic. He was on Saturday. He said, it is so much nicer. And so I think road cyclists will, they'll use it. They will be there, and I mean, and the mountain bikes, of course, they're all. So I don't think you can downplay cycling on it is there.
It is. And I want to make sure that what we do works well and is safe for all users. Like Mayor Pullman said, let's make sure that maybe it was you, that all three can coexist. But, this is a very regular route for me on my road bike when I leave my home in Layton. I use Mountain Road, and it's a dream now that you can go up Gentile. It'll increase. So creating safe.
Anybody coming from this way to that way, unless they're on the west side, comes up this road, on bike. Everybody does.
And that's, I guess, we're trying to encourage that.
Yeah, we want to encourage active transportation. We want to say that this is a safe place to do that. And we want to tie into what Farmington's doing and what Layton will be doing. I love what Layton's done with the bus stop, where they've bumped the curb and gutter out, and they've created a place for the bus to pull off the road, allow people to get on the bus from the park and ride, and then continue down the road. Brilliant. We should do that out here with our park and ride. No, that's not going to be in my lifetime. I did that once, and I'm just now getting the skin back on the backside of me. Not again.
And that's even including bikes that can go more than 25 on that road as well, and they exempt from speeding on that.
They're not exempt.
So, we got the little radar element to help people remind. I'm scared to death on Mountain Road over 26 miles an hour. Or, just myself, coming over from the other side. And 200 north to me is the same thing. I think if you go over the speed limit on Mountain Road and 200 north in my land, you're gonna get tickets, but apparently
Well,
not getting tickets.
That's why Brandon put out the little barrels with this
Speed sign.
signs in 'em, was to try and slow people down.
It's a problem, but it's not a problem just on Mountain Road. It's a problem on Hidden Valley Drive. It's a problem on Lloyd Road. It's a problem on Raymond Road. It's a problem on, you know.
When the bridge gets open.
And I keep
Everywhere.
telling my wife to slow down.
You wouldn't believe the amount of speed on Eagle Way.
As you round the
Starting to
90
drive
degree,
again.
90. So, when we talk about traffic, that's just a problem. That's a problem everywhere. But as we, I really liked the concepts and the ideas that were brought to our attention, because we have been trying to figure out a good way to deal with traffic for a while. And I don't support, I will not support speed bumps. I will not support roundabouts in the middle of Mountain Road, but I will support some logical striping and maybe shifting the road to one side to widen up some path on one side. I think that's brilliant, and allowing that to happen.
I think the one concern you have on Mountain Road is you've got residential on both sides, some are longer strips of residential, on the western side. But that's like, are they gonna they can have park there now when their family comes over, if we shorten less than a 9-foot path or park.
There's not, and maybe Councilmember Moss can speak to this, but from East Oaks north, there's not a lot of cars that park on Mountain Road. There's a couple of homes that I know of they park, but it's because they have a home business that they run.
We've got. I don't know.
But for the most part, most of those homes have pretty big driveways. I mean, Curtis, I don't see anybody parking on the road in front of your place.
It happens. It happens.
Yeah. Thanksgiving, Christmas, those types of,
Sunday afternoon.
yeah, Sunday afternoons. But in general, I don't think it happens. When you get down here, for some reason, it seems to happen a lot right over here.
Brandon, if like Butcher's Orchard ever develops, that again is going to be something that will change some of those parking situations. I mean,
Yeah.
well,
Hmm.
because right now you have one house for that whole length of Butcher's Orchard, 2 houses, I guess.
Yeah. And it could. But
I think the idea that's been discussed is that see if we can't accommodate traffic to go through at its own pace. Residents be able to walk safely on the sidewalk, and then bicyclists be able to zoom down the lane and go on the car. Or, with a safe, separate
that would be the case on Mountain Road, and then that would have to be also a consideration on Nichols Road and on 400 North. You know, Nichols Road at the east end of 89, or the east side of 89, is a lot narrower than Nichols Road on the west side. So there's going to have to be some sharrows. You know, that's going to be a route. Green Road could potentially be the route that bicyclers take, but you're not going to take Green Road on a road bike. You'll have to take it on a mountain bike because it's a dirt trail once you get under Highway 89 and into the Nichols area. So, you know, I guess my question to you all is, are you comfortable with what's being proposed as far as, and Tim, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's been really valuable here for the conversation. I think it's a matter of kind of figuring out what the best ways to accommodate pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists all in those. Yeah. I really kind of like the pathway idea for you guys along Mountain Road, because it gives families a safe way to bike around. And I think it's the kind of lower density community that could be okay sharing a pathway between bikes and pedestrians. But at the same time, giving the folks that want to go a little faster a way to ride on the road, take the lane, whether it's a share out area, I think, or having, if there's enough space, have the parking, have a dedicated lane. So I think having two options for bikes would be great. Because some people like to ride really fast and they're not deterred by traffic, others just want to be separated.
Yeah, depending on the use.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the drivers on Mountain Road will probably get less as 89 becomes, reality on more road.
Yeah, they're not.
I think there was a time when they did not try to skip the slow traffic on 89 and make it bypass on Mountain Road. And that's.
Yes. Yes.
So if they left those two lights that are up there right now and leave the road just a mess of dirt, I'll never ride on the road.
My mountain bike will do just fine.
Say, I'll find another way.
Yeah.
Walk away
Yeah.
from it.
Just go.
Any other recommendations or suggestions? Sorry, Tim.
I mean, I'm wondering about what are your feelings about the curb extension rollouts? Is it something that you want us to continue to explore?
I don't think curb, but I think let's try painting first.
It's a room for it.
I have,
Well, and you know, sorry, Flo, go ahead.
well, that's okay. I just wondered, since we're all trying to get rid of our parking strips, I mean, it looks like there's a little bit of a parking strip. Can we just extend that as more a wider sidewalk?
Well, I mean, I think there is space to build a wider sidewalk in the kind of curve, leaving the curves where they are. Like,
Yeah.
there's space to build a wider path in there anyway. Which is just a less expensive project in general. You know, strategically located places where there might be a curb extension would be, less expensive. That, you could try painting it with, kind of a bunch of delineators first. That's still a traffic calming thing. Could kind of give that sense of narrowing the roadway.
So why don't you get 8 feet to the 4 or 5 on each side, get rid of the landscape strips, put a curb and gutter, widen the road.
Good luck on that one.
I'm just saying,
Okay, say it again. Say it again.
The landscape strips that we're talking about.
Flip your strip.
People are trying, are they flipping the strip, right? Well, let's just widen the road. And
Get rid of the strip and widen the road.
then you get more space and you have a bike lane on each side and all that. I don't know. It's a
That,
big
what's
thing.
wrong with that?
Mountain Road has that right now, where they put concrete curb gutter right into the road.
The east side of Mountain Road, north of Green Road, is 6-foot walk back of curb. You get south of Green Road and we've got a wide park strip.
20-foot park strip.
Yeah. which, you know, would lend itself well to what Tim's been talking about, a kind of a pathway. And it could, yeah, we could, but I'll work with Tim and we'll come up with some concepts on at least the major thoroughfare or corridor, you know, areas that we've identified on the map. And then we can take some of those elements and incorporate them into other roads that we're having problems with. But we won't look at all of our roads in the city. We'll just look at these roads that we've identified as east-west connectivity and connection routes and our mountain road connection, and see how we tie into our neighboring communities, you know, that when they get to Layton or get to Farmington, that it's clearly marked and identified. And there will be some markings that we can put along the trail or along the pathway that kind of lets people know they're on the right path. Okay. Any other questions?
So let it be written.
So I feel like this has been beneficial because it helps us understand direction we need to go as we develop the final leg of our master plan. We're going to do that, but then we're going to hold we're going to hold a public meeting and allow the public to comment on this and look at it. Just because they comment doesn't mean that the city's going to change what they're deciding or what they're doing. We're just allowing people to give some input on that. I want to make sure.
We change the recreational focus. Instead of it saying recreational focus, like explain what that actually means. We'll do a better job, because that's really got a lot of people on arms.
And then going into these meetings, I want to make sure that we are all on the same page, because it doesn't look good when we have a group of people in here and we're not on the same page. So I want to make sure that we're all comfortable with this before we go to a public meeting. And I'm hopeful that we will be having a public meeting midsummer as we get ready to wrap things up by the end of this year and have a general plan. Just these elements of the general plan, we'll be rolling and incorporating more into it, but what we're focusing on right now is what we have in front of us. Okay. Is that realistic? Sam? Tim? Okay. Okay. All right. If there aren't any other questions, I'll entertain a motion.